Somewhat overlooked amidst the firestorm around Joe Biden's document scandal has been the after effects of his first and possibly last trip to the southern border. When it comes to the southern border, most people rightfully point immediately to illegal immigration stats. Human smuggling, however, plays a key role in how cartels operate along that southern border. To better understand this dynamic, we welcome Tennessee Congressman Andy Ogles. Sir, you are a freshman congressman. You have a rather unique background, and you are particularly suited, I think, to weigh in on this. You ran an international nonprofit, Abolition International. That was whose mission was to stop human trafficking. Given your understanding of this issue, what are your thoughts on the Biden administration's latest so-called solution to limiting immigration and that flow to that southern border?
You have to put yourself in the minds of the cartel. It's all about supply chains. And so if they can move drugs, if they can move guns, if they can move illicit materials, or if they can move human cargo, it's all the same to them. It's about profit. And so when you have a border that people can literally walk across, we know that 60% of women and children are sexually assaulted as they try to cross the border. We really have a humanitarian crisis that's taking place. And this administration tells us that it's secure, and we know that's not true.
Border Patrol agents who have been patrolling in Texas and New Mexico have interdicted almost 50 human smuggling incidents in the last week. Help distinguish for us, that seems like a large number, and it seems like they have they have streamlined this system, these smugglers. But I know that there is a small distinction between human trafficking and human smuggling. Is that correct?
The terms get used interchangeably, but
right.
Human smuggling, I think, implies that someone is simply trying to come to this country for a better life. And I can't blame anyone who wants to come to the United States. It's the land of dreams. That being said, you have to realize that many individuals that think they're coming here for a better life are then co-opted, forced into prostitution, whether they want to or not. They're forced into forced labor, whether they want to be or not.
So smuggling can quickly become trafficking.
That's right.
Because they're not necessarily the same thing, but they do become interchanged because ultimately that's how the cartels have been operating.
For the cartels, for the people that are moving illicit materials, cargo across the border, it's all about profit. And so if you entered into an agreement and you're being smuggled to go because you've landed a job and they get a better offer and they can sell you to the highest bidder, that's what they're going to do. If they have a shipment of guns and they have a better offer to another buyer, they're going to sell their cargo to another buyer. That's just the way this works. And so we have to close the border. It's a humanitarian crisis. I was talking with a former colleague who's on the southern border of a 4- and 7-year-old girls that they were left for dead. They were naked, dehydrated, and they'd been gang raped. I mean, that's normal course of business down there. And so for this administration to say that the border is safe, it's a war zone. When you have the cartels literally taking pot shots, firing weapons across our border at our patrolmen down there, when they're literally shooting at our drones that are trying to protect our border, this is not a safe environment. Our men and women on the southern border are in danger. And instead of hiring 87,000 IRS agents, what we need to do is hire 87,000 Border Patrol agents and protect and secure our border.
I know some of your colleagues introduced legislation. It won't likely get passed on the Senate side, but they would introduce legislation to divert those funds from 87,000 IRS agents to Border Patrol agents. I think there's a lot of support for that in the American population. Let's go back to another issue here. The Biden administration, so far, after 2 years, does not seem to have addressed human smuggling, human trafficking, this human aspect of the southern border and how it has been completely morphed and dysmorphed by the cartels. Do you have any insight into how this administration has been talking about human smuggling, human trafficking, this issue on the human side of things?
Republicans and Democrats for the last 20, 25 years have really been tone deaf to this issue. We haven't taken a proactive approach. And look, my wife, her grandmother came here from Honduras to the port of New Orleans. I believe in legal immigration. I have 3 beautiful children because of legal immigration. But what's happening on the southern border is really, it's an atrocity. It's to all those people that came here legally, it's insulting. And then over and over again, we have this class of people that are hiding in the United States, and they're victimized. They're victimized because they're having unsafe working conditions, subservient wages, not to mention that they're sexually assaulted or abused in transit as they try to come to the United States.
When you worked with Abolition International, did you get any understanding about how this very complicated dynamic? I know that on the ground in south of the border, and the further south you go, the more this is the case, cartels have really embedded themselves in the society and the culture. They've taken over the governments, they've taken over the society, to the point where if, we saw scenes of Christmas time and you had cartels going through the villages and giving out presents. Like, they became this, they're transforming themselves, it seems like, to be this good actor replacing the governments that are supposed to be running these sovereign countries. Tell us about your experience there. Is there a way to mitigate that side of the cartel's power and control?
So what you see, and this is a global problem, anywhere where you have a power vacuum, where you have a corrupt government that is essentially non-functional, commerce is going to evolve on its own. And what that does, it creates opportunity for organized crime to step in and to create their own economy, to take over the local governments. And, the one hand, they'll give you a gift. The next day, they'll assassinate your neighbor just to show you that they can. And so there's this constant stick and reward that they offer people that are in these, again, substandard conditions. And so they're afraid to take a stand because they don't have the means to do so. Meanwhile, they're living hand to mouth by the very people that are victimizing them, their community, and their country.
All right, so we know there's a problem. We've identified so many different facets of it over the years, and it's just seems to have gotten worse. You're now in Congress, and you may be in a position to actually tackle these problems. You're now on the Financial Services Committee. It seems like there might be ways that you can actually start tackling the immigration issue from the financial services side. Lay that out for us.
Well, obviously there's a huge economy to trafficking, but it's more than just trafficking. Because again, if you're going to try to disrupt supply chains, the same supply chain that is moving people, those same dollars that are moving through and being laundered, they're connected to fentanyl, they're connected to guns. And again, I want to go back to supply chains. And you hate to talk about human lives in the terms of cargo. But again, that's whether it's in China or Mexico or in Eastern Europe or in South America. These criminal organizations, that's the way they view these children and these women. They're just cargo. They're just an opportunity to make money. And so, it's one of those, you got to disrupt the economies, disrupt the opportunity for them to move their dollars around. But at the end of the day, until we secure and close the border, nothing that we do is really going to be effective, because it's like a dam that's got 1,000 leaks. You put your finger in one hole, there's 999 that are still leaking, and that's the problem we have. So we're trying to put Band-Aids on a problem that stretch our entire southern border, and we have to have a systematic, concentrated approach to fix this. And I believe, and it's probably a more radical approach, that you stop all immigration and you bring both sides to the table. And by sides, I mean Republicans and Democrats, the House, the Senate, and the White House. And you say, we're serious about this, and we're not going to let another person into this country until we fix our immigration problem. Your
Congress, your group, has a particular power here in being able to negotiate or at least withhold the purse strings, if you will. Is there a shot that 2023 is going to be salvageable financially? We are hearing so many different voices weigh in, but the most consistent message we're hearing out of financial experts is that 2023 is going to be a rough year.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. And, part of the problem, and like you said, Econ 101, and I'll oversimplify it, is if the government spends more money, puts more money into the economy than the economy can create on its own, the backside of that, or the result of that, is going to be some form of inflation. And what we've seen is trillions of dollars put into the economy. And so it's no surprise that you have inflation right now. It's no surprise that we're barreling towards a recession. And so as we continue to see layoffs, I think across multiple sectors in the economy, it's going to be clear indicators for those that are kind of crossing their fingers and hoping there's no recession on the horizon. I think that ship has sailed. We know there's a recession. The only question is how bad. So we've got to right our fiscal ship, and we've got some tough decisions ahead of us. We have this $1.7 trillion omnibus that was crammed down the throats of the American people that really ties our hands for the next 6 months or so. But as we move forward, we're going to have to make substantive cuts and really rein in discretionary spending.
Now, Speaker McCarthy has told the White House already that he wants to negotiate the budget. The government's going to shut down unless Kevin McCarthy actually gets an audience with the Biden White House. And the Biden White House has already said they're not moving on this budget. Are we at an impasse? And is this another McCarthy House Speaker race kind of drama that we're going to watch unfold, or is someone going to blink?
Well, I commend the Speaker McCarthy for taking that stance and being tough with the Biden administration. I think it's no surprise that Biden wants a blank check. He wants a credit card with no spending limit. And guess what? So do my children. That doesn't mean they're going to get it. And so I think we have to hold the line, and we have to send a clear message to the White House and to the Senate. We're going to do our job in the House of Representatives. This is the people's house, and this is the people's money. And right now they need us to be fiscally conservative with how that money is being spent. No more omnibus bills, no more blank checks, and we're going to have to cut the budget.
All right, Congressman Andy Ogles, let's see how strong that message holds up in the coming weeks and months. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
After the break, the DOJ plays politics with classified documents. Of course they do. Plus, the Biden administration makes a play to bring masks back. We'll be right back.